All right, everybody, looks like it's time to begin our cottage meeting. Um, If you received our newsletter, we did a short blurb in there that Grant Hedefin, International Director of Nautic Ed, has got a medical emergency in his family. It was hard to reach him for a week until we finally broke through, and he kind of poured his heart out to us. He's in a hard, bad way, in a bad place. If you can remember him in your thoughts and prayers, I'd appreciate it. His daughter has brain cancer. And yeah, he was feeling pretty low. Um, can only imagine what he's going through. So he asked if he could be excused. And certainly, but at any rate, my thoughts turn to Eric Ellis, who's the executive director for the Utah Lake Commission and who's been doing such a stellar job whipping that lake into shape. Uh, Even at a late notice, he was willing to help us out, to join us by telling us what in the past and past winter sailing seminars has been termed state of the lake. And he has many wonderful um, updates for us, a lot of new information, maybe old information. It's still all good about our sailing grounds out on Utah Lake. So we look forward to hearing from Eric, and he's got a great PowerPoint that he's going to show to us and has graciously allowed for question and answer after the presentation. So I guess what I would say is let's let Eric go ahead and present, and then after uh, some of the information that he shares with us, we can pose some questions and see what's going on with our favorite place to sail. So I think, unless I stand corrected, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Eric. Welcome, Eric. And thank you for joining us and sharing a lot of really good information that we're all hungry to hear about. So
Awesome.
here we go.
Well, thanks so much for having me here tonight. I wish we were down at one of the marinas in a clubhouse so I could see everyone. But this is exciting to be able to talk with this group. I'll just kind of push through and talk about some of the major projects that we're working on. We have, as you might know, there's quite a few issues on the lake, but there's also some exciting advancements that are underway that we can talk about as well. So really the issues that we work on are algae, connected to that, the nutrient loading, the Phragmites work around the shoreline, working to improve water safety, and then also from a perception standpoint, working with you guys, because you're one of the ambassadors of this, is improving the visitation of the lake by working on access and experience type activities that change those perceptions in a major way. This last summer, we were able to conduct 3 algae treatments with 2 different companies. This is the treatment that you guys would have all been noticing on Linden Marina, a group called Alpine Technical Services, and they conducted their pilot project. It was a battle for all 3 of them because it was a good year for blooms, but they did a really good job of keeping the marinas clear looking and substantially reduced algae compared to what we were seeing in the rest of the lake. Here's the treatment that was done up at Lincoln Marina. This one was an especially big challenge. As you can tell, the opening to this marina, unlike many of the others, is a direct shot out into the lake. And so every time the wind blew, it circulates that whole marina and puts new water in there. So while they wanted to put a curtain out in front of this, they tried to install it on a windy day and it didn't get in there. So they battled it for quite a few weeks, and then we had them transfer over to the Utah Lake State Park to conclude the summer. But while they were there and before any big windstorms, it did quite an amazing job of clearing up the water and reducing that algae that was in there. The Utah Lake Water Quality Study is continuing. It's making really good headway. We're kind of moving towards the implementation and kind of the findings of the study, and then working on implementation, how we're going to reach the goals for the nutrient criteria in the lake. The end goal really of the study was what amount of phosphorus and nitrogen can flow into the lake and not cause the problems that get in the way of recreation, the survival of the aquatic life, and the cleanliness or quality of water going down for agricultural needs downstream in the Jordan. And so we're coming to a conclusion on that. And one of the big additions to that, as I mentioned earlier, is working on ways that we can implement those. So besides just the regulated community, which is the treated wastewater, we have stormwater coming into the lake, we have agricultural returns, natural flows. And so we'll be looking at some of the potential more incentivized programs that could be utilized to improve not just the treated wastewater that is the outflow from those plants, but also some of these, what they call non-point sources. Lakeshore restoration is coming along really well. You're probably all aware that we were able to purchase a few Marsh Masters a few years ago. These that we're seeing at the bottom of the screen. And I apologize that the presentation somehow jumped formatting, so we're covering some of the material there. But the Marsh Masters are able to access the entire shoreline. Really, we don't have any problems except for really deep water and really thick Phragmites doesn't go well together. And so we've been really trying to help out the water ski course in Provo Bay, and we've had some trouble. So we're waiting for the lake to get a little bit lower so we can get in there and smash those Phragmites stands down in the really deep sections. But otherwise, it is working really well, and we've been able to amp up our efforts so that this last year and going forward, our plan is to treat the entire shoreline every year to really knock back those Phragmites and we start to see these areas where the Phragmites does not grow back. And in those areas, we're able to put down seed either in the upland with an upland native seed mix or in the wetlands with a native wetland seed mix where needed. We oftentimes see that once the Phragmites is down and staying down, we'll have native vegetation that's just present in the seed bank start to come back really well. So we just kind of keep an eye on that and figure out where we need to actively seed, whereas other areas are coming back on their own. So this was the 2020 project. You can kind of see we're focusing on this north end and down the east side of the lake. There isn't actually as much Phragmites along the west side of the lake. It's a bit drier over there. But going forward, we'll even take care of that little ribbon that goes along the western shore of the lake as well. This was the mechanical portion. So for those that might not be aware, the way we treat Phragmites right now is we fly on with a helicopter, a chemical treatment right at the end of the summer when it's kind of at its weakest. And then the rest of the year, starting about a month after that chemical treatment, we're able to run those Marsh Masters with rollers on a majority of the lake, and in some locations like near the marinas where it's a little more aesthetically pleasing, we'll put a mower on the back that we've got for those machines and mow down essentially mulches all of the Phragmites to kind of speed up that degradation process. So it cleans up much nicer when we do it that way. You might recognize this guy on the right there. That's Reed Price back in the day when they were first entertaining the idea of treating Phragmites. And on the right there, and hopefully your photos aren't getting in the way too much for you, that's the exact same location post a number of years of treatment. And so people these days, they probably don't know what it used to look like, but it has come a long way. It used to be the shoreline of Utah Lake. You wouldn't even, it was hard to see that there was a lake out there depending on where you were. And it's really coming back and clearing out and looking a lot better. Here's another example over in Saratoga Springs where the entire bay is filled. This is a perfect example because this is only just a few months before and after. It gets trampled down, and then the lake comes up, and as soon as it gets wet, it soaks up that water and degrades pretty quick. Another one along the shoreline there in Saratoga Springs. One of my favorites on the north end of the lake in Lehigh, from the same height. No view whatsoever, and then all of a sudden you've got the mountains back again, and if you were to turn to the right, you could see the lake as well. This one, we can thank Chad and many of you for being participants in this and pushing for better safety on the lake. The life jacket drive was really a direct result of the casualty, the double mortality this last summer, where the two young ladies got out on the lake on little inflatable tubes at the wrong time and the windstorm kicked up and they lost their lives. And so we've worked with their families, and this summer we'll be installing life jacket loaner stations at all of our marinas that don't have them, and also at the knolls where those girls began their fateful journey. That we've got partners involved. We've got a trophy company that's going to do a memorial plaque on all of these stations that talks about the girls and kind of celebrates their lives. And then we were also able to conduct this drive and get 190 life jackets donated, some cash, lots of media notifications, and we also were able to get some good reach on social media. 20,000 folks on social media were able to be reached. And what we're hoping is that by having these stations, it just allows folks to come down. If they've forgotten their life jacket, they can grab a jacket off the stand. If they take it, we can live with that. The catchphrase on the sign is going to be leave a jacket and save a life, or take a jacket and save your life. And we hope that anybody that's coming down to the lake at least has the opportunity to be sure that they're wearing a life jacket when they get out on the water. So hopefully that can save a life or save some lives in the future. Our Lakeshore Trail plans are coming along marvelously. Last year, kind of mid-year last year, Mountain Land Association of Governments approved 2 major trail sections on the lake. One of them in the Wacara Way area, which is the wetland open lands park that we're developing. It's about just under 1,000 acres along the western shore of Orem, just to the south of Vineyard, and touches right up to Provo on the south end. So they funded the first half of that. They also funded this large section up on the north end of the lake that'll tie from Timpanogos Special Service District across the frontage and then over to where the current Lakeshore Trail terminates in North Shore Park, or Loch Lomond, kind of the combo right there. So we're connecting this whole north end of the lake. So within probably 4 or 5 years, just because some of this funding is slow to actually be awarded. It's approved, but the federal dollars aren't available for about 3 years. We'll be able to tie folks from the Provo Airport area all the way up and around and down through to the south end of Saratoga Springs. The one gap that was missing this year was the second phase of that Wacara Way project. And so we petitioned or lobbied the state during the session, this recent session that ended last Friday, and we were awarded $4.4 million to complete that trail. So now that section is completely funded, and we'll be able to start in July 1st is when those state dollars become available. And we're working right now to make those the first phase and make the MAG dollars the second phase that will tie right into that Provo River Delta project on the south end. We talked briefly about Wakara Way, so this just gives you a preliminary look at what it will be like. There will have sections of boardwalk and sections of sidewalk, depending on the conditions. So where it's wet and wetlands, we'll probably have that raised up over the wetlands. And then sidewalk, there's a trail delineation that goes right along the kind of a sandy berm right along the edge of the lake that over the years has built up, and it's a higher area that really isn't wet anytime. And so we'll try to keep the trail on that as much as possible, but there's a few spots that we will cut across the wetlands. This is going to be a amazing facility. Overall, the trail system through this project is about 6 miles long. It'll tie right up to the west end of University Parkway, where the Orem City has their community trail. So folks will be able to come straight down from the front runner station in Orem, jump on this Wakara Way trail using a community trail, jump on the Wakara Way trail system, and either head south to the Utah Lake State Park and then jump onto the Provo River Trail, or they can head north and jump and they'll end up in Vineyard, where shortly we'll have another front runner station, so they could do a short loop and tie into that front runner station in Vineyard, or they can continue along the trail, which soon will be completed, and they could head up and jump right onto the Jordan River Trail. It'll be the longest trail in the United States, not our little section, but we're tying together the Jordan River Trail with the Provo River Trail. And already the Jordan River Trail is nearly one of the longest contiguous trails in America. And now we'll tie it into that Provo River Trail, which soon will be able to ride. You'll be able to be on a bike and ride all the way up to Midway in Wasatch County. So super exciting. The Provo River Delta project, many of you are aware of this. If you've been down to the Utah Lake State Park, this is underway. This is the Utah Mitigation Commission that's building this. It is intended to be the kind of the last fixture that will help the June sucker recover, but it'll also be a huge community amenity with trail systems both on the south and to the north, and have water trails through it, so you'll be able to take a paddleboard and paddle out and down either to the tail end of the Provo River or right into the Utah Lake State Park. Just a beautiful wetland that's recreating what used to be the Skipper Bay. So that project is well underway. You can see in the color to the left there what has actually been excavated already, and they're making great headway. And that's just a couple years out before that's completed. So watch for more details. If you'll look on the photo to the right, the existing Provo River channel will be converted into essentially a community pond, a 2-mile long pond. Right now it's a channel and the river flows through it. The river is going to be diverted in large part into the Delta, but that remainder will stay there. And there will be a dam kind of right next to the Utah Lake State Park to keep the water level up. They'll aerate it, they'll stock it with fish, and it'll be a beautiful amenity for folks to utilize, a shaded pond all the way through there that'll stay clearer than it has been in years. So also a great project. Some of you, those of you up at the Linden Marina, just to the south of you is going to be developed a really beautiful urban style city center. So this will be mixed use. So you'll have condominiums and residential space up top, retail and restaurants down at the bottom to really kind of, for the first time, get people down on the lake to enjoy the lake. The Utah Lake Commission was able to get a grant through the county this last year to fund the beach project out front. So it'll install a beach, it'll have a pier, potentially with a lighthouse on the end of it, kind of like something you'd see at down at Huntington Beach. And then to the north there, number 2, would be another wharf that potentially could have a restaurant on it right on the water. So really an exciting way to get people onto the lake on a regular basis, to really kind of keep us pushed to improve water conditions in the lake and improve the lake as a whole. We've got 3 grants this last year. The first one was with Vineyard. The second one here in Saratoga Springs. So it'll add an extra jetty onto the north end of that city marina to create a swim location with a swim beach and a sand protector so that the waves don't wash away all the sand, and add some pavilions and a rental booth and things like that. That'll, again, what we're hoping for is to create destination parks adjacent to our marinas, so that it isn't just a boat launch, but rather a place where people can come and be. The last one is the American Fork Boat Harbor. This one, again, it's a phased project, but a portion of what are the funding that we found, and this one will be implemented last. This is a couple years out. Will be this sandy beach here on the west side of the project. Repaving the whole marina so that it has a nice surface. If you've ever been out there, it's pretty dilapidated. And then adding a fair bit of new parking so that it can handle the boat traffic and destination user traffic that we expect down there. So this year's legislative appropriation is a huge win for the lake. It gives us funding for algae bloom remediation. We talked a little bit about the Wacara Way project. In that is $850,000 for fencing. The plan is to manage the vegetation in the Wacara Way with grazing, rather than every year having to chemically treat. This is a much more sustainable way to do it. So we're fencing off sections that can be grazed to a height that is beneficial to the wildlife. So it'll vary from section to section, but they'll just graze it hard until it reaches that desired elevation as dictated by the Division of Wildlife Resources, and allow us to really maintain that as a beautiful open space that benefits wildlife, and it makes where we have trails, people will be able to walk through and observe the wildlife and birds and really enjoy that. And then that portion that I mentioned for the trail, and also a maintenance / field trip facility. So we'll have something that resembles a largish barn that has some space for some tractors that will be used to maintain the property, and then also act as a restroom facility and a launch point for future 4th grade and other elementary school type field trips. We'll have some bus parking. We're already working on that, getting the access point developed. So really an exciting, something that is going to be a legacy project that benefits future generations to come. Shoreline restoration also got an additional boost from this appropriation. So we'll put that into some of maybe the less used sportsman's access points. There's 27 access points on the lake, and a lot of them don't see a lot of love. And so we'll try to find some key projects to improve those. Marina upgrades, $2.6 million for marina upgrades. We don't know exactly how we're going to divide that up, but hopefully Todd and I are strategizing on how to get some improvements made that would help the sailing community. So more to come on that. I don't want to make any promises yet, but something that we're really hoping to make happen. And then invasive species remediation, again, that's kind of more coming up with some ideas for long-term solutions on Phragmites removal. Just some photos from our most recent photo contest. Outreach. We do a lot with outreach. One of our big goals is to try to get as many people down to the lake, because once people get out on the lake and go for a sail or get out on a boat and look at the views, they love it. But a lot of people don't give it that chance. And so these are some of the projects that we've done to really kind of change perceptions out on the lake. We do a lot of work Sam Brager is a champ at doing our social media outreach and has a regular presence on a number of platforms. We do a podcast that's at least every other week, and try to interview folks like you guys that have a passion for the lake and share that passion with those that are less familiar with it. We do a blog, we do a newsletter, constantly working on improving our website. We do presentations. We attend as many of the city festivals that we can, and talk about the lake and hand out brochures and try to talk people into coming to try it out, and then do a lot of other communication as well. This Utah Lake is My Lake was a campaign that we did where we interviewed a few different folks down on the lake. We hired an intern that was a champ at doing videography, and so we have some really great footage of some of our favorite folks down on Utah Lake talking about why they love the lake so much. So you could check those out on our YouTube channel. Our community events, our Utah Lake Festival sadly is not happening this year, but as you'll see up on the top right, our Utah Lake scavenger hunt is something that we tried out because of COVID, really. It's an app-based scavenger hunt that had over 150 different challenges that allows people to independently get out on the lake and do treasure hunt type ideas and learn about the lake, and really was a hit. We had over 250 teams that played this scavenger hunt that takes place over just over a week. It was, I think, maybe even 2 weeks. So we'll be doing that in lieu of the Lake Festival this year, just to avoid the uncertainty of what the gatherings are going to be limited to by June, the first Saturday of June. By fall of this year, we should be able to do field trips again. We were able to, again, interview all of our typical fourth grade field trip presenters and do a digital version of their presentation so that fourth graders had the ability to do a virtual field trip, which I don't think is nearly as good, but was definitely a fun way to keep them involved in the lake as they would have otherwise missed out entirely. We continue to do these photo and video contests. With all of these new photos that we have, we print them on canvases and install them at the libraries in a gallery style. So we have a calendar for most of the Utah County libraries and get those installed, and they're really popular. The kids paddleboard camp, up till last year, we had loads of kids coming down to do paddleboard camp, which was a lot of fun. Hopefully we figure out a way how to continue those, as our concessionaire down at Utah Lake State Park is no longer there, but hopefully we can talk one of the municipalities into hosting a similar type event. And we've talked about these others. We did just have a winter fish fest, and we had over 400 submissions in just a week, where folks went out and fished, and with every fish they caught, they showed a picture of it, and that gave them a raffle ticket. And so we had lots of great prizes. The Division of Wildlife partnered with us on that, and it was quite a hit. So we're planning to do another one this summer and expect to have even more folks join that. Kind of wrapping up here, our volunteer programs have really taken off. We had the 27 access points. We had all of those, or all but one of those, adopted, and so we thought we'd add some new areas. So we bumped that up to 45 areas. So we included clips of trail and other areas near the access points. 41 of those 45 have been adopted. We get all these cleanups happening. We usually have our adoptees do about 3 cleanups per year throughout the summer to keep our access points nice and tidy. And they've been doing an amazing job of that. Just some more, I think it blows people's minds when they see these photos. We had some student interns do surveys around campuses, and they would show these photos and say, hey, any idea where this is? and very few could pinpoint that this was Utah Lake. And when they heard that it was Utah Lake, they were astounded. And that's why, again, the power of these images. So we continue these photo contests because it truly is such a beautiful place. And I know I'm preaching to the choir with this group, but we are excited about every improvement we can bring to the lake. With that, I'll finish and take hopefully lots of good questions.
You ready for one?
I'm ready.
So 3 times this week, having deliveries sent down to the marina for projects I'm working on.
Yeah.
The delivery guys asked if the lake was open yet.
Yeah.
And I just want to figure out a way. I mean, how do we get people to understand that, one, it's not closed very rarely, and then highly promote the health of the lake instead of this stigma of nastiness?
Well, one minor thing that we could do that I had hoped for from day one, but for whatever reason we didn't get it, is I think we could get some signs to hang on the bottom of those algae awareness signs that says lake open. It's nice to let the public know when there's a bloom, and they've got those signs that are kind of closed up there that they can open and say warning or closed. But I think a lake open would be really helpful. Otherwise, we'll push real hard on social media come the early in this or late in the spring when people are starting to make plans. But it is really hard to overcome the idea that once a lake has had an algae problem, or once there's been toxins in a lake because of an algae bloom, that it isn't always there. Regularly we hear that. So is it still toxic? No, it was an algae bloom. And
the lake itself has never been toxic, in my opinion.
No, I would agree with you. It's sections of it. And that's why it's such an overblown thing. We've done podcasts on it to kind of wade through the fact and the fiction. And we'll do that again and talk about how, much like flowers, they bloom for a short period of time, and when they're done, they're gone. And even more so the case with algae blooms. They're a natural phenomenon. They take place, and sometimes they last a day, sometimes they can last a couple weeks, but they are a temporary thing in there, and any associated problems are temporary as well. And so we're pushing. We've got a couple more blog posts coming up that will talk about that and kind of describe the monitoring process, so that people know, hey, if you're concerned about the water body you're headed to, you go to habs.utah.gov, and there's a list of all the lakes that have a warning, and if they're not on that list, they're good to use. So we'll be pushing on that.
Yeah, I'm seriously contemplating getting like some kind of a Kickstarter campaign to put together to get some radio commercials or TV commercials and just do some ads. There's such a misconception of the lake, and it drives me nuts.
Agreed. And it is a challenge. I mean, even choosing a media form is a challenge these days, because what do people actually use? I mean, they obviously most people use social media, but I think, oh, maybe a popular radio station, and then I think, I can't remember the last time I turned on my radio. And so it is a challenge. People are pretty zoned into the media that they choose. So getting them.
What about mailers? Like, I mean, people get, I don't know, there's like Utah County, whatever. There's a couple of different magazines or something that come out.
Oh, like Hometown Values?
Yeah.
This one right here.
Yeah, there you go. How do we get a front page or full page ad in that? Because I mean, really, it used to be like almost fun, to just do my spiel and tell people how wrong their perception is. Now I'm just getting sick of it. It's getting ridiculous. There's way too much stigma on this lake, And
Yeah.
it just is driving me nuts.
I think part of it will be, this is one of the reasons why I couldn't be more excited about some of these bigger projects that we got grants for. An enhanced beach. Few things are going to bring people down and let them forget about their previous idea about the lake. If they hear that there's a brand new sandy beach on the edge of the lake that they can go suntan or bring the kids to, they're going to forget about all of that. They're going to come down, and if we can make sure that they have a good experience when they're there, that's the story they're going to start telling their friends, and not the, ooh, you're going to Utah Lake, because they'll actually have an experience that they can say, when was the last time you were there?
Yeah.
I've never been there. You need to come with me next Saturday. We're going to the beach. So we're pretty stoked that either one of these added new beaches or the trail system that kind of takes people. I don't know if any of you have been along the Powell Slough area, but as I walk down there, we're down there pretty regularly right now with all the projects happening. It is so gorgeous that you can't walk away from there without having had a good experience. So those types of good experiences, I think, are going to be vital in changing perceptions long term.
Well, so hello everybody. So I live in Linden. My wife and I actually walk the Linden Harbor down to the end of the trail in Vineyard pretty much every day. And just because of the population increase in Vineyard, I mean, we're seeing a lot more people out there. I think that that's going to transform people's perceptions just because of there's so many people going to be living next to the lake. It's already getting almost too crowded some days when it's nice out there. To the point where I'm actually kind of worried about the pollution problem because there's so many people out there and leaving trash. And so we usually walk along and bring trash bags, right? Because it's just, that's going to be the next concern.
Yep. Well, we do have plenty of cleanups along that shoreline. We recognize that it's popular. We've got the Earth Day coming up. That'll be a community-wide cleanup along the frontage. And then we're also starting, Vineyard City is hiring a frontage consultant to put together some plans for effective use of that shoreline along the front of Vineyard City. And the commission will be participating on that, and that'll happen pretty quick, and that'll allow for the implementation of that $3 million grant that we were able to get this last year for Vineyard City. And so you'll see some really nice cleanup projects, cool developed portions, cool natural areas. And if trash is a problem, we can break it up into smaller pieces and get some more volunteer groups tackling it so that they stay on top of it as much as possible.
Hey, Eric, sorry if I missed this. You said something. Where are we on the carp situation on the lake?
Carp is it's in good shape. They reached their goal probably a year ago. The goal was 75% reduction in the carp population. They hit 80% reduction. At this point, they're on a maintenance mode. They're shooting for 1 million pounds reduced every year. They used to be shooting for 4 million, usually hitting about 3. And then right now they're just in the process of looking for innovative ways to maintain that population. So they're looking at ways to tackle young carp, the typical way, the seine nets that they use to pull those out, the adult carp out, don't capture the young carp. So we're looking at either a genetic modification to create a sterile population, or there's a disease that's species specific for carp that is being heavily investigated in Australia. I think that the June Sucker program that runs that carp removal is watching what they do first, just to make sure that it doesn't have unintended consequences before they undergo anything like that. And then we're also looking at some cool technologies. Right now, the one that I'm excited about is a sorting system. You could look it up. It's called Whoosh, like WHOOSH, where fish, you would install these in the tributaries, and fish, when they pass over an opening in the channel that's a part of this system, in 2 seconds, the fish is photographed from every angle, determined what species it is, and if it were a carp or a northern pike, which is also a big problem for the lake, it would be able to kick that fish out, and anything that's a desirable species would just be allowed to pass through. And so that's something that we're looking at. We did get funding for invasive species, and so that might be something that we do a pilot on one of our tributaries this year. We're setting up meetings to figure out what the costs are going to be like. But that would be a great way to kind of stay on top of the carp population. At this point, there's no plans to aim for full eradication, just because we don't have that much hope for success. So keeping the numbers down is a good alternative, and we're seeing the other populations of fish in the lake really respond well to these lower carp populations.
$1 a fish bounty and they'll disappear like next year.
They pay the commercial fishermen pretty good money for the carp, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, already there any legal or any method for capturing them that you want is legal for carp, and it's just not that popular. Maybe we're too civilized or something. We need to get some pitchforks down there.
So I have a quick question. I've seen on some trail and transit maps that there are proposals for having a couple bridges go over the lake eventually over the next 30 years. Are those just conceptual, or are they actually in the works and plans? And
I would say that those are more conceptual at this point. There is a recognition that when Saratoga Springs reaches somewhere closer to build out, and potentially we see something south of Pelican Point, that there would be a need for a transportation corridor coming across the lake. But at this point, the maps that you're seeing through Mountain Land Association of Governments and UDOT are very much conceptual, just trying to keep the idea alive, but nothing that they've scheduled out funding for or anything like that.
Eric, in that same vein, years ago, we heard about islands in the lake.
Yep.
Where is that a real kind of behind the scenes happening, or is that just a flash in the pan?
I would say that it's more of a real thing. They're making progress. I think that the way that they're approaching it at this point is probably a healthy way to do that. They're planning on essentially a demonstration-sized project as their first phase that would enclose a portion of the lake and demonstrate all the technologies that they're claiming will do what they say they will. And by doing so, it'll allow for regulators and local folks to see what their promises are and see them delivered or not. But that'll be at least a couple years out. They're just going through the environmental impact study at this point and see where that takes them. They've hired the premier dredging and environmental and dredging type firm in the country. And give me a second, I'll remember what they're called. Geosyntec, and that company will walk them through the environmental impact study and permitting phase. And when that completes, Forestry, Fire and State Lands and the Army Corps of Engineers will make the determination on a permit for that, and we'll come back and we'll know what's happening. In fact, we'll hear a lot more about it in the coming months and year, as they have to go through those permitting processes, have lots of public comment periods and the ability for others to weigh in. So
I wonder if we could get Geosyntec to relocate some of the muddy bottoms we have in our marinas to that site that they're thinking of building.
yeah, I think they probably would. I mean, Geosyntec isn't necessarily entity that's going to be doing the work.
Yep.
But the completion of that, if they get the green light, I think that the idea would be to for sure make sure that the marinas are fully usable. And I know that the intent of it is to not have any impact on, or better said, any negative impact on the elevation of the lake, as it's intended to be built out within the lake and done over a period of time, so that any volume that they're adding to the lake is compensated for by the evaporation savings by reducing surface area.
I got a question to expand on that. Is there any plans in the works for any additional marinas or any marina expansions with the current ones that are on the lake?
There are actually, there's two projects that come to mind. A minor project is down at Lincoln Marina. There are two historic boat launches around on Lincoln Point that I know that other folks knew they were there, but we just discovered them. They're overgrown, but they're concrete pads leading into a little jetty of sorts. And so this upcoming year, we're going to be applying for Habitat Council dollars, a grant program, to get those cleaned up so that they become sportsman's access points where they can launch duck boat style boats. And then the other major marina that is in the works is likely to be a partnership between Lehigh City and Saratoga Springs. Saratoga Springs was just deeded there's a historic resort on the north end of the lake that has a little marina with it. It was a scout camp and a variety of other things that belonged to Scott McLaughlin. He sold it to D.R. Horton. D.R. Horton's using it as their green space. They deeded that property back to the city. Now the city's partnering with Lehigh, at least that's the intent. And they've already put together some really cool renderings of a variety of ideas. So they haven't settled on the particulars of that marina, but that is the intent, is to make that a regional marina that would be greatly expanded from its current state. But you can see it if you look to the inlet park, or better said, the Jordan River Inlet, and just head a little bit east, you'll see, just if you look close on a Google map, you'll see just that little inlet of an old marina sitting there with some concrete banks to it. So that'll be the biggest of the marina additions that's in the works right now.
They need to make it bigger. It's not big enough.
Oh no, that it will be probably, I mean, I'm just ballparking, but at least 5 to 10 times larger than it is. From the renderings that I've seen, it'll probably be a little bit closer to the state park sized.
Okay.
Somewhere between that and, I mean, the state park's 45 acres of harbor, if you counted all of it, even though most of it's shallow. And most of the other marinas are only 3 to 5 acres. And so my guess is it's somewhere in the middle there. But it'll be a fully functional destination style marina.
Nice. Hopefully they can figure out how to get maybe a restaurant or some shopping or something in there.
Yeah. Right now they wanted to focus on finishing their existing city marina down on the south end of the city. We got that grant for them, a $2 million grant to take care of that one. Was it 2? It might have been 1. Sorry.
Are they going to add any amenities there like that, or is it
that one won't have restaurants. It'll have a rental facility, like a concession stand,
right?
And a number of new pavilions, picnic type pavilions, that new pier. So likely they'll be able to launch more boats out of that harbor now. Right now they're limited to 49 boats at any one given point due to some Coast Guard type rule. I think it's a safe harbor rule or something like that. So adding that extra protected harbor will act as that.
Yeah, we break that rule at least 3 or 4 times a year, by the way.
Yeah, probably. But it'll double the capacity for harbor there, even though they're
Nice.
not that north part won't be intended for boat use, but it could probably act as an emergency harbor. So we'll have the ability to get more boats out on the lake because of that.
Nice. Yeah, I kind of knew about this one up on the north end. I heard things were moving forward on that, but I didn't know how close it was. So that's cool.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's not that far out. They seem to be quite excited about it. They wanted to get the first one finished, and then they'll direct their attention. And I think there's a demand for it, and so they'll as long as this partnership with Lehigh works out, that'll double their money. And there's the Utah Office of Outdoor Recreation is really pushing for regional type recreational facilities. And so the state this year appropriated quite a substantial amount to those types of projects. So there's money available, and I think that they're going to try to capitalize on that and get this taken care of sooner than later.
So is it going to be Saratoga Springs and they're just working with Lehigh for the land use, or is it going to be like a joint Lehigh Saratoga marina?
My guess is that they will, again, if it works out like Saratoga is hoping it will be a joint ownership. So I don't know if they'll name it Lehigh Saratoga Springs, but it will be managed as a partnership between those two cities.
Cool.
Are there any improvements coming for the Pelican Bay Marina? The docks there are getting a little old. I just hadn't heard of any monies available to upgrade the Pelican Bay Marina.
So the Pelican Bay Marina is the Saratoga Springs City Marina.
Okay.
Another name for it.
Okay. Yeah.
The plan that for the expansion right now does not change the docks. It simply adds a new jetty to the north of the existing marina, the beach, some new pavilions. My guess is that, I mean, the docks, if you're a city, replacing docks isn't a huge undertaking. I don't remember what Ron paid, but somewhere 150,000 maybe for quite a big set of docks. And so my guess is that if they really do sort of take a turn for the worse. Do you remember how much they were?
Yep.
More than that? Less than that?
Not even close to that. Not even a tenth of that.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
The epitome.
I mean, that was a different deal. We bought them, the state park was basically an auction.
Okay.
But we kind of knew how much the other guy was bidding, so we were $100 more.
If only they were able to have picked some really quality docks to replace them with. I think you guys a nice one.
They did okay, right? No, they did. No, Provo got better docks now.
Except that they're mounted on those U's, and so when the water level goes down, they get shoved up into the air.
Well, that's how the other ones were, but we actually removed those and then reinforced them and made them so. I mean, if all the water disappeared, our docks would just sit flat on the mud.
Yep. Yeah. Anyway, considering they're not brutally expensive, I think that the city would replace them when they started to get bad. And maybe I didn't realize, but maybe this was a pitch for Ron to go buy all the docks out of Saratoga Springs Marina so you can amp up the Linden Marina more.
You know what? We are looking at adding. I mean, we have 70 slips. They're all full. We have 30 people on waiting lists, so we need to add.
Yeah.
And if Saratoga is in fact going to upgrade instead of just
repair,
do maintenance on these or repair them, I think we would be super interested in getting a hold of them. So,
well, if I hear that they're planning to do anything with them, I'll be sure that we pass that information around. But at this point, I haven't heard anything about replacement.
Yeah, we've got some flotation issues over there. You have to walk through the water to get to land sometimes. So,
oops.
So it'd be nice if they did a little maintenance over there at least.
Yeah.
Since we use it often enough.
So maybe I'll ask this group, just as a question, not as an offer. Does the proposition of a sailboat crane seem like a critical addition to the lake.
We're the only, well, Utah tends to be the only state on the, or place on the planet that does not have something like that. So yeah, it'd be great.
Okay.
Here, here.
Yeah, without making an offer, that's what we're hoping can be one of the marina improvements that we put those dollars to use for this year. So,
Well, I'll raise my hand because we are actively trying to make Linden Marina a full service marina where people could do haul outs and do, you know, have facilities where we can do boat repairs. So
yeah, and at this point, to be perfectly honest, I don't think that anyone is going to feel too strongly about where such a thing goes. Not meaning that you wouldn't want it there, but I'm saying the lake as a whole could use that system,
absolutely.
regardless of where we say, okay, let's put it at this marina or let's put it at that marina. It would be a huge benefit to the lake. So it's something that we're going to push on, and we'll probably try to place it where it is most welcome. So we'll leave it at that. And once I have better direction on how we get to spend these dollars, then I can be more excited and more direct about it.
I think your idea of placing it where it's most welcome is excellent, Eric.
Okay.
That should be a great guiding force.
Yep. And I guess all we would ask is we want the sailing community to take off in Utah Lake. We would love nothing more than for there to be offerings for regular, from kids up to adults type education programs for sailing. So getting New Horizons and others really finding a home on the lake and creating that lakeside community interaction. I grew up right next to a yacht club, and it was awesome to see all these little people out on the little mini sailboats burning around and learning how to sail. And I think that it's something that we could really benefit from as a community that surrounds the lake. So
Eric, if you ever have the opportunity to just be in a conversation with Ron and kind of put that out there, that would be an amazing feature to have, and that it is important to have those kind of programs.
I will.
He's a little hard to convince that something like that really has a draw to it. Like, just because it doesn't interest him as much, he thinks it's not.
Well, here's
but
the thing.
If he hears more of it, maybe he'll start to grab onto it.
You're gonna have, for better or worse in your perspective, you're gonna have 6,000 units at your doorstep with this new Vineyard City Center, a whole walkable community, and that walkable community is going to be dying for things to do.
I've been trying to convince him
so
every day.
You establish that first, and it becomes the go-to. If he doesn't establish it first, then we're going to try to add something like that into the city outlay.
Yep.
And so it's one of those things where it doesn't matter a lot who does it, at least to the Utah Lake Commission. What matters is that it's being done, and it's being done in a location where it can benefit a big portion of the population with relative ease. And you guys are pretty strategically located to take advantage of that crowd and do something cool that just adds to the value of living in that area. So I'll definitely bring it up with Ron next time we talk.
That'd be great. Super fun.
I thought you guys would have had hundreds of questions. You're taking it easy on me.
We are a well informed group. We know most of this stuff.
True. Very true.
How's the mosquito forecast?
Well, it's a dry year, so maybe it'll be lower than normal. we don't have enough water in the mountains to fill the lake, but on the bright side, we're starting out way better than we should expect to be starting out. We're only just barely less than 2 feet below full.
1.9 something, I think. Yeah, it's great.
Oh, was it that high? Yeah, it's a good place to start out for such a dry year, because we know that it will likely not raise up a whole lot more, and it'll probably dry out really quick with such a dry amount or little amount of snow in the mountains. Sadly, the water years are exacerbated by the demand for water. A wet year, you hardly even touch the water in the spring because it keeps raining, and on a dry year, you don't have enough water, and you're demanding it early and demanding it longer than you normally would. So it'll be unless things change, it's going to be a pretty dry year.
Exciting stuff. So I have a question. You may have a little more information. This vineyard, or sorry, yeah, I guess it's vineyard project. I've been talking to a few people about this marina type pull-in boardwalk, whatever that they're working on. Is that? I mean, I'm kind of hoping. I really want some destinations to go to that we can pull in with our boats and go eat, or and have those kind of things. So I'm hoping things like that are actually moving forward.
That is what is intended to be in this cove. It'll be a non-motorized launching, but from a boating community pulling in there and being able to jump up on the boardwalk or figure out a way to have at least a dock of sorts that's temporary.
Right.
So people can come in and jump up, climb up to the restaurant and eat on the water. I keep telling Saratoga and Vineyard, all we need is one restaurant on the water, and people's perceptions will change overnight.
Exactly.
Put some screens up on it so that the bugs aren't a problem, and it's going to be the place to be. So
what is the location of that one in Vineyard? I have not seen that part yet.
Portion, so we could go back to it real quick.
I guess I missed that. But.
So it's number 2 on that right image.
Well, that's where the beach is now.
Yeah, so it'll just come right up. So there's your turnaround, just barely to the north of that, number 1. That's where people would be able to bring their car down, drop off paddle boards or what have you, and then walk them out to the edge. And then your pier with a restaurant on the end of it would be right there, number 2.
Are they going to do anything with the ponds north of that? Are there any plans to?
The city council would love to do something with those, but I don't think that there's enough unity on what they would like. Some of them want a wakeboard park. Others would love for it to be a marina. Others have talked about it, digging it all out, getting all the junk out of there, and turning it into a pond, like a community fishing pond. It's unclear what they're going to do at this point. Anderson Geneva needs to do a fair amount of remediation work before it can be used for much of anything.
Yep. I vote marina.
Hey, is this presentation going to be available outside of this meeting?
Oh, I can share it with you.
Okay, cool.
I'll send it to Todd and he can send it out to this group.
Do you know what what you're showing out the Vineyard shoreline? Do you know what their timeline is for that? I know that the development, they're putting in their condos right in front of the lake, right in front of the road. It's there, which I'm assuming is going to disappear at some point in the near future.
The road?
The road that goes by the shoreline right now, which is in front of the condos that curves around. It looks like from the plans that they have that's going to become a walking path eventually. Some of that road.
That's what I understand as well. So my guess is that'll be within. They're talking about having this whole thing finished in 3 years. So it'll probably be within the next year or 2 that they relocate that road and do the frontage. So the dollars are available for it today for the frontage portion that we're helping with, or that the Tourism Tax Advisory Board is helping with. We just applied for the grant, and what we was successful. But how soon the frontage gets finished, I'm guessing that it's within 1 to 2 years. Again, their dollars were available this year. Saratoga Springs dollars are available next year, and American Forks are 2023. And so really the ball is in the court of Vineyard. And when I spoke to them earlier today, they said they were hiring that group or putting out an RFP to hire a design team for the frontage. This design came from their city center designers. We just asked them to throw out some ideas and gave them some parameters. But the final designs will be developed by this group that they're hiring right now, and we're going to be part of that team to make suggestions. And so we'll be pushing on these ideas and also pushing them to get it underway as soon as possible.
Awesome.
Yeah, Ron is in a good spot with his marina right now. I think that he's pushed and shoved for years and years and years to make it happen. All of a sudden he's going to have more people than he knows what to do with, and so hopefully he's at the same time kind of aware of this and thinking a little bit bigger and trying to develop something that can, I don't know, be an amenity to this and not something less than that. I think it looks like what he's doing. He's done some amazing stuff down there with his budget and what he has to work with. It's been an uphill battle, but
I'm honestly kind of surprised that he went ahead with the camping, because the whole time he just kept saying, why would people come here? Like he just couldn't. And now we're full all the time. So
Lakeside, it's a big seller.
Yeah. Well, his son is a good salesman for him. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it'll be a popular area. Forever, it's been hard for people to get there. I had to go there 3 or 4 times before I could even remember the route to get down there, because it's kind of a random way to get there. But you've got a couple new connectors. The Vineyard connector is going to take thousands of people right by it, and with a little drop off from there. So it'll have more attention than it's ever had here in the next couple of years.
yeah, I'm trying to buy the place. He's not letting me. So.
Yeah, my guess is Vineyard or Linden, specifically Linden. I know that I've talked with the rec guys there, and they're like, "Oh, I can't believe we couldn't talk our city council into buying it back in the recession when Ron got it for nothing."
Yep.
But again,
Well, yeah, Mark got it for a lot cheaper than that.
is he the previous owner?
Yeah, Mark Cook. I mean, I think he got it for, you'll take over.
Oh,
Go
really?
for it. Yeah.
Yep. You just got to be places at the right time sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what I have. Are there any other questions?
We're good.
Well, Eric,
When are we going sailing?
Anytime.
that was another sterling presentation, Eric. Thank you so much for putting this together, and it always gets me pumped up. It really is exciting to hear the plans that are happening down at the lake, and your enthusiasm and your professionalism to make this stuff happen. It's not just people talking, it's stuff that's really going to happen. So we appreciate your leadership and look forward to all these things happening. I can see my picnic blanket right there where those 2 people are in that Vineyard City shoreline. Yeah, it's going to be great. So I guess that's all, folks. And we thank you so much, Eric, for taking the time to do this. And we'll be in touch on ideas and such.
Okay.
Oh,
Thanks.
good night, all. Aloha nui laur, and we will talk to you next week, same bat time, same bat channel. We're not sure who's going to show up to present, but, and it won't be better than Eric, but it'll be good. So we'll see you then. Good night.
Thank you.
Okay, there's Mr. Chorniak. And there's Melanie and Terry and Derek. Okay, guys, great questions. Hi, Susan. I don't see Terry's left ear. What, is Terry there?
Yes,
There you go.
there he is.
Good to
We
see-
just had it cast to our TV screen and
Oh,
the
okay,
view is better on the couch.
okay.
Nice.
What do you think?
Oh, we are excited about
Oh, this is great.
Here.
Great stuff.
really great
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's gonna be really something. Well, I appreciate your support, everyone. I appreciate you tuning in. And let's keep up the good vibes. Till we meet again, huh?
Sounds great.
Okay. Good night, all.
Right.